we just have a good rhythm together, you know. He sort of feels me out, I feel him out, and we go for it.
Well, welcome along, welcome everyone, Guy.
Oh, sorry everyone, didn't see you come in there. Welcome, huge shout out to Nati Cano's Mariachi Los Camperos, who appeared as the mariachi band in Sex and the City, a film that Tim and I have just watched for the 36th time in the midst of sort of a subtropical rainstorm here in Greylin, Auckland, New Zealand, Little Empire HQ.
Here we are, surrounded by water and a dog. We're not really surrounded by the dog's surrounded by us.
No. Yes. Yes and no. It's nice to be with you, Tim. It's nice to be with you, one Libertarian audience member. As we started the screening, you said to me that this entire episode is going to be rooted in positivity.
Yes, from Woe to Go.
A celebration of the movie.
The Frosty Boys are bringing sunshine sprinkles, rainbow sprinkles to the ice cream that is our review of the movie this week. This episode. I think it's twice a week.
It's a noble pursuit and a noble ambition, but I think it's going to make for a very challenging.
No, you're already not being 100% positive.
I'm just being 100% honest, and there's nothing more positive.
I didn't ask for honesty.
Than an honest relationship. I don't know if you're picking that up on the mics, but I think the credit music's still blaring. Is that
very intentional? It's ambiance. Ever heard of it?
Do you know, as soon as these credits start rolling, I bang it out. I just get it all out of sight, out of mind, out of my ears. Yeah, and that's because I can't bear the thought of not watching it again immediately, because I love this film. 2 hours and 30 minutes, a light-hearted romp, a romantic comedy for everyone. For the ladies, for the fellas, for everyone in between, this truly is a triumph of the cinema.
Yeah, there's so much to love. So let's try and dedicate a little bit of time and cover as much ground as we can for the different aspects of filmmaking that they've just absolutely nailed here. First of all, casting. Often people would underestimate the importance of casting when you're turning a TV show into a film, because you're like, well, we've already cast it based on the decade of show that already exists. But au contraire, mon frere, we're introducing new characters, we've got exciting new people to meet, we've got a lot of background actors, and can I just say, absolutely flawless. Of course, the four leading women who carried this film, pun very much intended, they do a sensational job, as they always have. But Louise, Will,
go on.
I was going to say Candice Bergen is fantastic, but she's actually in the TV show as well.
Is she?
I believe, yes.
Well, she very convincingly plays the editor of Vogue. Well, yeah, shout out to the casting department. I tend to agree, actually. Obviously, naturally, we spend a bit of time with the extras, not on set, not as much as you'd think, but around the fringes of watching the film. And
everyone's good. Everyone's doing a great job.
I don't think there's anyone to call out.
No one and nothing. It's perfect, so there we go. Casting, done.
I'd also like to give a huge shout out to the editing.
Okay, let's get into it.
Just,
how would you describe the editing?
Well,
in 2 words.
Very good.
Yeah, I agree.
It appears to be edited by someone who's familiar with the show. They're familiar with the pace. They're familiar with, the rate at which these characters talk to one another, and the rate at which an audience expects to see them talking to one another. It's the Gilmore Girls in half speed. And it's been one of my main complaints with the Gilmore Girls. It goes too fast.
That's what everyone says. They talk too quickly. I've got to play the thing in half speed just to understand it. But these guys
no such problems with Sex and City. You can watch this at its intended speed, and you will understand every word that you know the definition of.
That's a good point, actually. Often overlooked, but the enunciation in this film, very good. There's very few lines I didn't understand on the first go-around. You can't say that for every film.
Absolutely. Continuity, out of sight. I have tried week in, week out to catch out Mr. Big when he's chopping tomatoes and very nonchalantly proposing to Carrie. And, you know, my research has led me to the opposite of what I was hoping to discover, which is the way it goes sometimes with science experiments, isn't it, Tim?
That's why you can't go in with preconceived notions.
Absolutely. It's very important to keep an open mind. But I went from thinking, surely they can't nail a guy cutting tomatoes in between having conversation with his partner. But they really have. And to the number of slices I noticed this week. So he chops a bunch of tomato, he slides it into the bowl, and then later on in the same conversation, he brings out a fresh tomato. He reveals it to Carrie and in doing so to camera. And then we hear the sound of a blade slicing through a fresh, juicy tomato.
What does it sound like?
It sounds... Whoosh, 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 whoosh,
Get that in you.
whoosh, whoosh,
That was 5.
whoosh,
Oh, 6.
whoosh,
7.
whoosh.
8 slices.
And then we see a wide shot involving the tomato. It's been split in twain, and then each side once thrice, once 4 times, a perfect edit. A marriage of physical action, continuity, editing, Foley. Honestly, one of the greats.
Great attention to detail. Such an easy thing to overlook, and so many films do it with things like that, but they've absolutely nailed it. Another important critical scene when Miranda Hobbs and Carrie Bradshaw are having dinner together at the... Oh, no, sorry. I misspeak. It's when Miranda Hobbs and her family, including Magda, are having dinner together. There is a candle burning away in the centre of the table. I had a pretty close eye on it. It's good stuff. That candle, again, holds true to the continuity of the scene, the timeline that we're looking at. Obviously, things aren't always shot in order, but that candle was burning down as you would expect it to over time.
While championing this movie, we would be doing a disservice to the writer, Mattress Pikelet King, if we did not celebrate this triumph of the storytelling form. A lot of movie makers, particularly in olden times, and 2008 isn't necessarily olden times, but it is, you know, no longer modern, they would try and cram, you know, all of the action of the movie into an hour and a half, so that 90 minutes was your classic blockbuster running time. And that is thankfully not the case here. What we have is a movie that is comfortable in its own skin. It's secure in the amount of interest that it's garnering, and it's not afraid to go down a few cul-de-sacs. And you know what I've said? You cannot visit a neighborhood without walking down a cul-de-sac, because that's where they hide a lot of the best stuff. Streets that connect to other streets, you know, very often there's not a lot going on down there. If you want to know the secrets of a neighborhood, you go down a goddamn cul-de-sac. And Mattress Pikelet holds our hand. He walks us down every cul-de-sac on the block. Are they all perfect cul-de-sacs? No, but that's what makes it real.
What are some cul-de-sacs in this movie as opposed to main streets? Here's what I would describe as a main street. Key tentpole, sure, plot points. Carrie Bradshaw being jilted at the wedding. I would describe that as a main street. Them going to Mexico, I think kind of an interesting cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I would
it's
say...
not needed.
I would say so too. I'd say there's a pedestrian pathway at the end of the cul-de-sac, but you're not going to get a whole vehicle down there.
No.
There's no way you're going to get a vehicle down there. You'll scratch the sides, you'll take off the wing mirrors, you'll run over an animal.
You might hit a kid.
Yeah, I think any story that is not pertaining to the central four is a cul-de-sac.
But there's so scant
that's what I'm saying.
That stack up to that definition.
Can I just quickly circle back to the jilting?
You actually can. I'll allow it.
Thank you. So Mr. Big decides to jilt Carrie the day of the wedding.
Brilliant storytelling. Brilliant plot point.
Very, very earned. But he calls her the night before, and we can see concern in his eyes. We've had the feeling for a little while that Mr. Big is nervous around the notion of getting married, particularly in the style of the spectacle that Carrie has planned for the two of them. He calls the night before. Carrie reassures him. We later learn after she's been jilted that she was sort of aware that Big was kind of panicking.
Which we know because of the final shot that's held of her looking down the empty hallway, I think at her beautiful wedding dress from Vivienne Westwood, alone for a brief moment as the film takes a breath and lets you know that Carrie, you know, not wholly feeling good about this. There's something there.
That's right. And so he calls her the night before. What do you think about the ethics, Tim, of Mr. Big on that phone call saying, Carrie, I can't do this. I know your instinct's going to be to persuade me. I'm still in love with you, but this wedding was a misstep. I can't get married to you.
You'd like for us to discuss the morality of basically jilting her a day earlier than when he does.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm wondering what the falling action of that decision making would be.
Sure.
I'm wondering what the public perception would be. I'm wondering what you would think of that particular sort of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering whether or not you think the relationship could withstand, still a declaration of love, but just between two people over the phone instead of, loudly parading it in front of everyone in the New York City Public Library.
Well, something's going to give anyway, because obviously these guests have known more than 24 hours in advance that the wedding is on.
Yes.
Some arrangements have needed to be made, not just for the key players, but also for guests in attendance.
It provides an opportunity for some mystery or intrigue. There's not so much one focal point of public humiliation, potentially a united front between Mr. Big and Carrie, where they say, look, we put a lot of effort into this. We appreciate everyone travelling here, but we've decided that this marriage is not going to go ahead.
So this is actually the day after the rehearsal dinner? Day after the rehearsal dinner, day before the wedding.
It feels to me he's dragging his heels a bit on planning it, but he's not nervous about actually getting married. It seems to me at the rehearsal dinner, the scale of the event, Miranda's little jibe, that to me feels like when he starts thinking, whoa, and he makes the phone call that night. So it has to be in this, all of that information feeds into his decision making.
Sure. I think it's a more mature decision to make. To nix it. The earlier you nix it, the more mature decision it is, I think. Nix it day of, you're dealing with a man-child. You nix it the day before, you're dealing with I would say, underdeveloped person, because he knows in his bones that he can't go through with this thing for a while. Although you're right, any earlier than that, he hasn't quite reached the precipice because all the events haven't happened to lead him to that decision. Yeah. So here's what I think, Guy. Still a bad guy, a less bad guy. But that's what makes Mattress Pikelet King the best, because we want to see flaws in a character. And what's more flawed than screwing over the woman on the day of your wedding to her, who you've been screwing over for the last 10 years?
But that is you're absolutely right. Not a single criticism here. That is incredibly human. To reveal, the darker side of humanity is as human as you can get. But I mean, how do you think Carrie's response to that would be? Would you imagine their relationship withstanding that phone call? Do you think Carrie would say with Big in a joint statement, we're not getting married? Or do you think Carrie would still... Because I guess she gets to blow up at him once, but otherwise she just has this simmering anger and resentment that she carries with her. We see that physical confrontation face to face.
You almost think it's a kindness that he's given her to jilt her on the day so that she can really blow off a lot of emotional steam once, and then it's sort of more justified for her to wallow for a long time in what's happened, rather than if he did it the day before. Seems like an outrageous, well, not outrageous, but maybe an overwrought proposition to be as angry as she is for as long as she is. Yeah. Is that what you, Guy Montgomery, are telling me?
No, I'm just curious about, like, you think you believe Carrie to be a strong-minded, emotionally intelligent character.
Flawless in every way as a character.
So how would a flawless character react to this information? How would that differ to the way that she obviously perfectly reacts to the information as it unfolds in the movie?
I think very similarly to what we see when it's the day of, and the reason for that is everything in this movie is perfect. So it's like when you see those time travel movies where they change a couple things but the outcome is still the same. It's like that. It's like the universe needs to hit certain markers.
And do you think that the weakness is in us or in me? Where I think, because I've seen 35 of these cold-hearted day of jiltings, that I crave just a little bit of respite, just a bit of water to pass my lips to
what
quench.
An insane proposition to change anything in this movie. Outrageous. Well, I can't fathom it.
Amongst all of this positivity, this seems as good a time as any to share a shining light.
Yeah. Of all of the glowing moments in this film, of which they come, once a second pretty much, every frame truly a painting, what one for you, Guy, stood out above the rest? In this art gallery of cinema, what is the piece de resistance?
The performance by Stanford Blatch on the steps of the wedding. He confesses to Mr. Big not being there, and to be completely honest with you, he does it with a wicked glint in his eye. The tone of his delivery and his face does not probably quite match up to the seriousness of the situation. He's quite a light-hearted guy.
He's in a different boat.
Spent enough time with him to know his more serious side. But it seems to me that he is built to thrive in more gentle sort of situations. And so just to see a little bit of that personality peeking through in his limited screen time, it is really nice. His performance that entire time on the stairwell, all the way up to when he gets caught between two worlds and doesn't know what to do with himself, is a powerhouse. What about you?
I think my favourite moment from this, my favourite movie, in this, my favourite watch of it, because each time I see it, I love it all the more, was the delivery from Kim Cattrall. What is the exact line? It's around when she's doing the speech of, I eat so I don't cheat. I did note it while we were watching, the exact line of dialogue, but it's all so good. It's like trying to pick a favourite child, you know?
Yeah, I really do. No, you're not wrong, Tim. The movie does improve with every watch, and often it will take 35 watches to notice it is getting better, but when you see it, it's impossible to unsee.
That's right. It's like screwing a lid off a jam jar. You can put the lid back on, but it won't be on as tight.
Not unless
this is the perfect analogy for the perfect point I'm trying to make about
getting
the perfect
stronger.
film.
What other sort of positive things would we like to cherry pick from our experience with Sex and the City?
Here's what makes me happy: spending more time with Carrie Bradshaw. I don't want to see her twice a week. I want to see her 10 times a week. I just want to be with her all the time. She's my best friend. Why? Because she's emotionally tuned to what's happening in her life. She's an intelligent woman and she knows how to have a good life.
She's a listener. They're all listeners.
She's empathetic. She's sympathetic.
She's got it all.
She's not pathetic. No.
Heavens,
she is
no.
the perfect character.
I am finding it really easy.
Yes.
To continue to find positive things to say about the movie.
I'm really trying to remember the exact line that Kim Cattrall did, because I said it to you at the time when she said, I eat so I won't cheat. And then Miranda, I think, says, what have you been eating? And then Samantha says, everything except Dante's dick, as she takes another bite of cake. A perfect bit of script writing.
And delivery. You said it was the most convincing piece of acting in the film. And let's all remember, this is a film full of convincing acting, not least by St. Louise's family, who we see as she's on a phone call with Carrie, filled out with just, a lot of top shelf performances. About 5 extras crammed into the one scene, and all of them do something different with their face. And, that goes against the common acting decision for all of the extras to do the same thing with their face. But, this movie goes the extra mile. They said to the extras, they said, that's great. We've got 20 takes where you all do the same thing with your face. Now it would be great if you could all do something different with your face.
If there's any criticism I could lob at this film, it's that there's
I don't think you
more
could.
of it.
Okay.
I would love to see twice the runtime that we're dealing with. Here's how I'd like to spend it. I would like to travel to St. Louis with Carrie Bradshaw to witness the beautiful union of Will and Louise. I think would be a wonderful thing to see. I think there might be some hijinks afoot. I would like to see Carrie Bradshaw in a fish out of water situation, because I just love seeing Carrie Bradshaw anywhere. I like her seeing in water. I like her being out of water. I love this fish. This is the fish I want to spend the rest of my time with. If there was just one fish for me, Carrie Bradshaw, please. Not to eat, but to hang out with. I hope she lives forever like those koi that are in Japan that have lived for decades and decades. I want to jump in the pool and figure out a way that I could become amphibious so that I could live with this koi, this beautiful koi.
Tim,
COYKOI.
The idea of this movie running for twice as long makes me physically ill to the pit of my stomach.
And with excitement, like getting on a roller coaster?
I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah?
Because it hasn't already happened.
What do you mean?
It makes me sick with anger.
Yes, jealousy.
That Mattress Pikelet didn't deign to flesh this thing out to the 5-hour runtime the movie-going public and Sex and the City fans deserve.
2.5 weddings in one film. 3.5 weddings split across 2 films. That's what we want to see.
I love this.
I want to see Samantha's dog get married. Why don't we do that? Why can't we have... I know the reason why, because Mattress Pikelet King is right about everything and we can never question his judgment, for he is perfection in, wrapped inside of a director.
If we left the studio and the first person you ran into was Mattress Pikelet King,
yes,
what would you say?
I would say, may I wash your feet?
And what would he say? He
would say, no, for you are not worthy.
And
I do not ordain you worthy to wash my feet. And I would say, I wouldn't look, I would avoid eye contact. I would apologize profusely for such an indignity that I've thrown at this demigod who walks among us, this absolute titan of cinema.
And then, first of all, how dirty are his feet?
They're not dirty at all. They're perfect, just like every other hair on his body. Nothing is out of place with Mattress Pikelet King. He can do no wrong. If they were dirty, that means that dirty feet are now perfection.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying?
He's the torchbearer for social mores and modern standards.
For everything. We should all be eating, sleeping, walking around, committing ourselves to try and just mold ourselves into the image of Mattress Pikelet King.
I'd now like to do a role play between Chris Noth and Sarah Jessica Parker in between takes on the set of Sex and the City. Wow, Sarah, this is going so well.
Chris, I couldn't agree more. We are both so lucky, as perfect as we are, to be working with the most perfect director and screenwriter that history has ever born.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And scene. And you could imagine them having a version of that conversation time and again on the 365-day shoot that was Sex and the City. That's right, it took 1 calendar year.
What I love about this movie is that it transpires across a large amount of time. We get to see 4 seasons. We are treated to snow and leaves falling and a bit of rain and also beautiful sunshine.
Azure, the big blue, the ocean. And when you're watching this movie, all you want to do is fill your pockets up with some stones and walk into the water as far as you can, and then take the stones out of your pockets and swim back to shore because you're having such a good time.
It's called immersion, folks. It is akin to walking out on that balcony with Chris and Sarah and looking out at a crisp autumnal night, New York City, and going, what if we 3 just throw ourselves off?
It's the sort of movie that makes you want to take an elevator to the top story of the Empire State Building, climb over the safety railing, stand on the edge of the building, on the precipice of ending it all, jump from the building, and then unleash your parachute as you gently glide to safety, pop it in the DVD player, and watch it once more.
This is the kind of movie that makes you want to join 2 best friends on Valentine's night at a restaurant surrounded by candles and what I'm assuming to be hydrogen balloons, and burn the motherfucker down, because then no one can take away the time you've spent together. You will be at your most vulnerable as a trio, and your friendship will be solidified for the ages.
Absolutely.
As you are engulfed in hydrogen flame.
Challenges can do one of 2 things to friends. They can push them apart as their differences are driven further and further by a wedge between them, or it can unite you and bring you closer together. And I wouldn't be able to articulate what either of those experiences are like, because my friend Tim and I have never faced a challenge in our lives. We've made a series of positive decisions that have benefited both of us immensely and continue to this day. A morning spent without Tim Bat and the gals is a morning wasted in my book.
It is unfortunate that there is any time in our weeks, in our lives, that is not filled with Sex in the City, for it is the perfect bit of content. It's like everything in human history has been leading to this point. Why did we invent the wheel? 10,000 years ago?
Why did we keep making movies after this was released? Have you been to the cinema recently, Tim? It is dross. It is all interminable dross.
Sometimes I watch things that aren't Sex in the City sort of to self-flagellate, just to remind myself of the perfection of Sex in the City, the movie. And I am reminded every single second. We're awash in content now. People call it the golden age of television, and those people are forsaken because they are not watching Sex in the City, the series, or either film over and over again as we are, because we are the ones who have discovered the one true path, the light and the way, and it is through Mattress Pikelet King of Kings. That's where the king bit comes from.
Shout out to the wardrobe department. Not a thread out of place. This is the sort of movie that makes me want to just shrink down until I'm really, really small and just keep getting smaller and smaller until no one can see me or hear me. I almost totally disappear off the face of the earth because nothing I contribute to society could possibly come even close to holding a candle to the majesty of Sex in the City, the movie, a triumph of cinema, a triumph of storytelling. And that's just how I feel.
And you're right to feel that way. Well, I don't know if there is anything more to say.
Not from me. Rufus?
He seems upset. We better put the movie back on for him, because dogs, women, children, boys, every human, every animal, every plant, every inanimate object deserves to be awash with this film. Do you know why we created computers? So that we could play this fine piece of art, this perfect piece of human engineering on as many screens as possible.
How many devices do you have in your life? How many of them are playing Sex in the City, the movie, right now? The ratio should be 1-to-1.
If you don't own stuff, steal stuff.
Buy
if you
stuff.
can't buy or steal stuff, hack stuff. I would love to see a stadium. I would love to see Dodgers Stadium, those big football screens that they have, those huge big screens. I would like to see a 50-story tall Carrie Bradshaw, like Godzilla, but the opposite, saving cities from themselves.
I'd like to give a shout out to the following people. I'd like to give a shout out to Sarah Jessica Parker.
Shout out.
I'd like to give a shout out to Kim Cattrall.
Shout out.
I'd like to give a shout out to Kristen Davis. I'd like to give a shout out to Cynthia Nixon. I'd like to give a shout out to Chris Noth. I'd like to give a shout out to David Eigenberg. I'd like to give a shout out to Jennifer Hudson.
Shout out.
I'd like to give a shout out to Jason Lewis.
Shout out.
I'd like to give a shout out to Willie Garson.
Shout out.
I'd like to give a shout out to Mario Cantoni.
Shout out.
I'd love to give a shout out to Evan Handler.
Shoot out.
I'd like to give a shout out to Candice Bergen.
Shout out.
I'd like to give a shout out to Lynn Cohen.
Shout out.
I'd like to give a shout out to Gilles Marini.
Shout out.
I'd like to give a shout out to Joseph Pupo.
Shout out.
Love to give a shout out to Bridget Everett. I'd love to give a shout out to Annalie Ashford.
Hey there.
I'd love to give a shout out to Parker Fong, Joanna Gleason, Daphne Ruben Vega,
Shout it,
Andre Leontelli,
Shout
Monica Mayhem, Bridget Regan, Plum Sykes, Kate Rockwell, Alexandra Fong, Dreamer Walker, Patrick de Marchelier, Amanda Sitton, Roxy DeVille, Suzanne Cryer, Lena Hall, Kim Shaw, Peter Kim, Lauren Howe, Joshua Henry, Damian Young, Malcolm Getz, Henriette Mantel, Rogelio T. Ramos, Nancy Shane, Ricardo Molina, Mariachi Los Camperos, Ching Valdez Aran, and Kerry Bichet.
A shout out to Todor, to all, and to all a good night.
We just have a good rhythm together, you know. he sort of feels me out, I feel him out, and we go for it.